Anyway, after that long-winded windup, I'm here to say that I think the organization screwed up. I don't think that I think the licensing needs to be part of the whole sign up process. Well, here we go. The Bass Commissioners back in better than ever. Patrick, hope things are going well. How are things today?
Good. Been a busy day teaching a bunch of new recruits and all that all day long. So they all did pretty good today. We brought them in our burn building and set it on fire and rolled some fire over their head, and none of them freaked out or panicked. So I think we're gonna be pretty good with this group. Oh yeah.
Well, I've got a beef tonight. And I tell you, there have been some disqualifications in the last few in the last year. We had one just very recently. The National Professional Fishing League disqualified their winner at Wright Patman. That was Baron Adams. He won the tournament. He won the tournament. $100,000 check, holding it up on stage. And then it was discovered later that he did not have a fishing license. And it was a situation where the organization says that he is not a bad guy. He simply forgot to hit submit on his license purchase. And he claims that that's what he did. He forgot to hit submit basically on the license purchase. And I think it's great that National Professional Fishing League has these rules and stood by their rules. I mean, it had to be embarrassing for them to to have $100,000 winner disqualified, and then basically had to hand it over to Ryan Satterfield, who is now the champion of that event. Anyway, after that long-winded windup, I'm here to say that I think the organization screwed up. I think the licensing needs to be part of the whole sign-up process. We live in a digital age, and if an old dinosaur like me can learn to submit certificates and documents to a website, why can't the professional bass fishing organizations have that be part of their sign-in process so that we don't have to deal with this? That's horrible. Anyway, that's a lot of talk for me. What do you think about the whole thing?
No, I mean I agree. I mean it was embarrassing. I mean you kind of hit it on the head right there. It was embarrassing. I mean you have this guy that stands up there and he's the winner. He holds up the check, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, hey, by the way, you didn't have a fishing license. So all that stuff we just did is now fake. Or not fake, but it's not accurate anymore. None of it matters. And then you get this other guy who actually came in second, who didn't truly win the event. Now he gets it because that guy got disqualified over something you could have prevented. If it was like, if he was cheating somehow, or, uh, you know, stuffing weights in fish's mouth or something like that, then by all means, that's completely different. This guy didn't cheat. He simply didn't have a fishing license. He still caught all those fish. He still caught the most fish and the biggest amount, or the biggest weight of fish. Um, but you disqualified him because he didn't have a license. And why don't you ask this question beforehand? Like you and I have kind of talked already. Like, why don't you require them to submit that they have a fishing license when you go to register for the tournament? When you have your pre-tournament meeting, everybody has to verify that, hey, I am actually this guy, and I'm just showing you I am who I am, and here's my proof of a fishing license. And if they don't have one, then they could order, or they could get it taken care of right then. And because I'm sure this guy knew the process. He probably understood that he was going to get asked this question. He's going to have to do a polygraph. So I don't think he did it intentionally. But I mean, yes, you can blame him and say, well, he should have figured it out. Yes, you're right. 100%. He should have known what he did was wrong, or he should have made sure he had a fishing license. When I went fishing in Arizona last year, I made sure that me and my son had a fishing license. I'm going fishing in Tennessee in the first part of June. I'm going to make sure my wife and I have a fishing license. And, but still, you could have done something to prevent this huge black eye on this tournament, because that guy will, to me, always have an asterisk by his win, because he didn't win. He won on a technicality, not
Yeah.
because he did the best. And maybe that guy feels that way. I don't know. I haven't talked to him, but we could have done better, and we need to do better.
Well, yes, I agree. You know, these are technicalities. Somebody got disqualified in a BASS Open within the last
Trey
year.
Swindle.
Who was that?
Trey Swindle got disqualified on
Yeah,
after day 2, I believe, because they asked him to provide proof of insurance, and and you had to have a certain amount, like I think $50,000 or something like
something
that.
like
And
that. Yeah.
I could be off on the numbers. I looked it up when I bought insurance for my boat, just in case I was ever in that situation in a tournament. I'd never have to worry about it. But you should have had him prove that the day, hey, here's my insurance, here's my fishing license, here's my driver's license stating I am who I say I am. Here's all this stuff to verify. Now we can go have this tournament. Instead, you had a guy get disqualified because he couldn't provide the proof of insurance. And maybe he thought he had it, maybe he made a mistake, but you now had a chance to help this guy figure that out. So why not?
Yeah. So it's not just the National Fishing League, and National Professional Fishing League, BASS as well, and I'm sure Major League Fishing is probably in the same boat here. My question is, make this part of the sign-in process.
Right.
You know, you're signing up for a tournament, you got a form you're filling out, you submit fishing license, you submit proof of insurance, you submit whatever other documentation is going to be required. And that solves the problem. We don't have a guy get disqualified. I mean, he's got to feel terrible about this.
Oh, for
He's
sure.
got, I mean, there's been a lot of outpouring and support for him, but you know, who knows if you're going to get this moment again, you know? And it's just terrible that it had to happen this way. And I honestly blame the tournament organizations for not having this kind of like fail-safe check-in type thing in place for these guys. Okay,
Right.
so the thing that's important is it's a technicality that the organization could fix ahead of time by having this process in place.
Yep.
I know it's his responsibility to have a fishing license. I get that. But I think it's the organization's responsibility for making sure that these guys are all checked in properly so that we don't have to deal with this.
Right.
Okay. So there was another in the Tackle Warehouse Invitational that Kelly Jordan just won. Ron Nelson was leading the tournament going into the final day. And he was fishing in an area, he was like on a point. To the left of that point was a marina. And he moved into that area and he fished into that marina and he caught 4 keepers in there. And he had a camera in his boat. The tournament director called him and said, "Hey, you're fishing in an off limits area. You've got to release all four of those fish." I mean, that's a mistake. I think he's quite frankly very lucky that he was able to throw those fish back and continue to fish, because if he hadn't had a camera in his boat, it wouldn't have known that he was in an off limits area until later on. Those are the kind of mistakes that anglers make sometimes that get them disqualified. I can live with that. There's not a problem with that. What I can't live with, what bothers me, is that we're going to cost the guy a tournament on a technicality. He wasn't trying to not fish with a license. And even if he was, he couldn't do it if you had a format, if you had a process in your check-in procedure that required anglers to submit these documents. Anyway, I kind of feel like we have a ruling here to make.
Yep. Let's do it.
I think that it needs to be mandated from now on that tournament fishing organizations in their registration process have have some form of uploading documents for all the documents they need. If you need a fishing license, you need proof of insurance, um, whatever else that you might need, all that information should be part of a checklist that gets uploaded. That way we don't have a situation where an angler is fishing without a fishing license. I mean, come on. It bothers me. It really bothers me that this happened.
I agree. And that they need to put something in place. All organizations need to have something in place that where you have to provide proof of a fishing license, and that way none of this can happen, and you can't hold it up there and say, oh, hey, such and such just won this tournament. I mean, imagine the tournament like the Bassmasters Classic. If Gussie gets up there and he hosts the trophy up and you go through all this celebration and everything, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, hey, he didn't have a fishing license. So we just went through all that and all that celebration and confetti and him driving around the arena and holding the trophy. Oh, yeah, all that's gone. We're going to give it to the next guy.
You cannot have these kind of things happen. So I'm saying I think you agree that the organizations need to be required to require anglers to upload this information before the event starts so that we don't have this kind of thing happen. This is just, it's not good for the sport. I mean,
Right.
professional fishing already has enough trouble with guys stuffing weights down the throats of walleyes and things like that. We don't need this kind of a thing that could have been avoided if there was just a process in place for
Right.
anglers to submit these things online before we started.
Well, and just like, I mean, you had all the, every time I went fishing, somebody would ask me, are you stuffing weights in those fish's mouth? And the first time it was funny. Then after a while, it gets old after you hear it every time you go fishing. Somebody's asking about that. Now the things would be, you got a fishing license or you out there fishing without one? A bunch of illegals. I mean, just it adds, like you said, it's the sport that's already doing its best to survive and trying to, and you just added another hiccup to it. And so, yeah. So I say we make the ruling.
All right. The organizations must require documentation before the event starts in order to avoid these kinds of things. The commissioners have decreed, so it is said, so it shall be. The organizations now must follow along with what the commissioners have said. Of course, we know they probably will just ignore this, or maybe they won't. Really, maybe this is the kind of thing, maybe this dumb little conversation that we're having tonight is something that's going to ultimately make the sport better. Because if we could eliminate these kind of things from happening, and it's happened before, there have been guys that have maybe not ever lost $100,000, but there are guys that have had their weights disqualified because they didn't have a fishing license. And it's avoidable. It's
Right.
avoidable in this day and age where we can upload certifications and documents and things like that. It could all be done. It should all be done before the event ever starts.
Well, look at Trey Swindle. Trey Swindle had a chance at possibly winning that tournament, which would have qualified him for the Bassmasters Classic, which,
Yep.
I mean, so that's a big stage. And he obviously would have got money for fishing the Classic and all that kind of stuff. Where if you would have had him have to upload that and then he realized, oh, I don't have it, well, then he could have got online just as quick as you buy a fishing license, you could have
Right.
changed your insurance. And I'm kind of like you. They have all been pretty open and honest for the most part. And if that would have happened, I mean, obviously the NPFL could have covered this one up and they didn't.
Yep.
So I would like to think that, and I'm going to bring up another point here in a second of something else I saw today actually with Gerald Swindle. But I would like to think, I know I said I think they would cover it up, but I'd like to think they wouldn't. Kind of like
Yeah.
you,
I mean, and again, hats off to the National Professional Fishing League for following their own rules. I mean, they kind of set it up this way. They have to follow these rules.
right,
But I think the point that we're making is that, gosh, it doesn't have to be this way if you
right.
just get them to upload this documentation before the event starts. What you got another point? What have you got?
So Gerald Swindle, I just saw this video clip today. Actually, Brandon Polinick shared it, and I think the caption said, "I would have known." and Gerald Swindle was bed fishing in a tournament, and he caught a fish. And there was no cameraman in his boat. There was no marshal. All he had was his GoPro. And he hooks the fish and he reels it in and he gets over there and he lands it and he brings it up. And then he walks up to the camera and he says, "This fish was hooked outside of the mouth. It was hooked right here in the side. I could have thrown this fish in the live well. Nobody would have known." And then he turns and throws it in the lake.
Well, there you go. That's a good thing. And you know, bass fishing in many ways is a lot like golf. It's supposed to be a gentleman's sport or a
Right.
gentle person sport. You know, we need to be able to trust each other out there to do the right things. Otherwise, it's like you said, he would have known. He doesn't want to win that way.
Right.
So good for him.
But he did the right thing. And so I'd like to hope that even the organizations, as much of a black eye as that would be, something like the Bassmasters Classic or whatever, that they would do the right thing too. As hard as that would be, I mean, I could only imagine the media nightmare that would be to come out and have to be like, "Oh, hey, by the way, I know we just did all this stuff, but he's not the Bassmasters Classic winner anymore."
Well,
So,
anyway, I think we made the sport better tonight.
yep,
The organizations can save themselves a lot of headache. We would never see that happen in the Bassmaster Classic if licenses are uploaded, insurance documentation is uploaded, anything else that needs to be uploaded before the event takes place. And then we can go out there and we can fish. And yeah, somebody might end up fishing in an off limits area. That's on them. Somebody
right,
might, you know, be late to the weigh-in. That's on them. But at least it's not over a technicality about some documentation that could have been, should have been taken care of. All
100%.
right, Patrick, we did well tonight.
Yep.
Got to pat ourselves on the back for this. All right, I think that'll just about do it. Talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. See you next week.
All right.